Projekt Guru.
Всем привет! С вами Zak Novak на радиостанции Novorossia Rocks. Welcome to Novorossia Rocks radio station. This is Zak Novak, your American in downtown Donetsk. The program is called Projekt Guru, and Guru is in the house as always. Andre, my engineer, as well. Let's get right to it. Nazi Ukraine junta fires over 200 shells on civilian areas, aiming to kill women and children. Once again, the madness from the Ukraine junta forces have unleashed bombs on civilian areas of Donetsk. The cowardly bombing over the weekend targeting civilians to kill and maim women and children. With the support of the Obama Gestapo regime and the terrorist organization NATO, over 200 mortars were unleashed on our civilians. War crimes. The pro-Kiev Nazi forces have shelled the territory of Donetsk People's Republic with over 200 mortars in the past 24 hours, a source of the DPR Defense Ministry said on Sunday. From Saturday evening to the early hours of Sunday, the Nazi Ukrainian side shelled the airport, the village of Spartak, Zapichovo, Veseloye, Yasinovata, Checkpoint, and Dokuchayevsk. Overall, 140, listen to this, Guru, 140 mortars of 120 caliber and 64 mortars of 82 caliber were launched from the enemy positions, the Donetsk news agency quoted the source. Nazi Ukrainian military also used tank guns for shelling, the source said. The participants in the contact group on political settlement in Donbass region agreed at their meeting in Minsk on April 29th on a new ceasefire regime starting from midnight on April 30th. However, the conflicting sides continue accusing each other of truce breaches, but as we all know, it is the Kiev Junta who are committing these atrocities. Fire breaks out at factory plant in Dokuchayevsk due to shelling by Kiev Nazi junta forces. Nazi Ukrainian forces shelling attack has caused a fire at a factory plant in Dokuchayevsk located 20 kilometers south of Donetsk. According to a source in the law enforcement agencies of Donetsk People's Republic, storage tanks in the territory of Stone Dust Plant caught fire as a result of the night shelling of Dokuchayevsk, the source said, without specifying information about possible casualties. The DPR Defense Ministry reported earlier that Nazi Ukrainian security forces opened fire on Dokuchayevsk on the night of May 30th using heavy artillery. In addition, 230 shells were fired from mortars by Nazi Ukrainian side overnight on the DPR areas that are adjacent to the contact line. A total of 126 mortar shells of 82 and 104 of 120s, again 120 caliber, were fired from the Ukrainian forces positions in the period from 1830, that's 6:30 to midnight. The shelling attack of the Nazi Ukrainian battalions was aimed at Spartak, Veseloye, Kominternovo, Kulikovo, Oktyabrsk, Yasmoye, Zaitsevo, Zakhanka, Dokuchayevsk, Yasinovata localities, as well as the airport and Gagarin mine outside of Gorlovka. Our sister republic Lugansk attacked by Nazi Ukraine forces with heavy artillery and tank fire. The Nazi Ukrainian forces 11 times opened fire overnight on positions of the People's Army of the Lugansk People's Republic. The shelling was also conducted from tanks that under the bilateral accord should be withdrawn from the contact line, the LPR Defense Ministry reported on Monday. The fire on the areas of Logvinova, Kalinovka, Lozovoye settlements were opened from weapons of tanks and infantry fighting vehicles, mortar fire, again 120s, and 82s, and grenade launchers. The Lugansk Inform Center quotes a DPR defense official saying, the Nazi Ukrainian forces opened fire from positions near the Luganskoye and Boguslavskoye settlements. There have been no casualties, thank goodness. While Iraqi officials claim that Fallujah will be liberated, the U.S. regime again making sure that this will not happen. While Iraqi officials continue to talk up their offensive against Fallujah as a quick and easy battle that will liberate the major city in a matter of days, U.S. officials are conceding that this is shaping up to be a very difficult and likely bloody campaign. Lieutenant General Sean McFarland warned Iraq is going to face a long, tough fight in the city, which has been under ISIS control since January 2014, noting that the city includes many of Iraq's early adopters. to the ISIS cause. Massive public protests against the Maliki government were held in Fallujah in the weeks leading up to ISIS taking the city, with the almost exclusively Sunni population blasting the Shiite government for reneging on the power-sharing deals and undercutting top Sunni Arab politicians. The government had virtually withdrawn from the city before it fell at all. With sectarianism still a huge problem in Iraq, Lieutenant General McFarlane notes that the invading force could face a fairly large percentage of a fairly large city that's hostile to us. This was less true in places like Ramadi, which were only under ISIS control a few months before the offensive. Even in previous battles, however, with relatively passive populations, the liberation phase of offensive against Sunni Arab territory has been followed by widespread looting and violent purges by Shiite militias backing the military, which only adds to the sense among locals that letting the city fall to the government is risky and that ISIS retaining control, if far from ideal, is the safer choice. Guru Andre, listen to this. U.S.-backed terrorist organization ISIS gets destroyed by Syrian Air Force. VIVA ASSAD. Syrian Air Force has attacked a large base of the Islamic State terrorist organization, which is supported by the Obama regime in eastern Syria. Sana news agency reported on Monday. As a result of the attack, ISIS transported military equipment were destroyed on their way from the Syrian desert. Syrian Air Force also delivered strikes at the militant camps along the highway to Raqqa. According to Sana, ISIS transports oil and gas in tankers to the Turkish border through Rahum, a settlement at the junction of Raqqa and Homs province. Airstrikes were also delivered at ISIS positions in 70 kilometers from Palmyra and adjacent areas. Militants sustained losses in personnel and equipment in Deir ez-Zor on the Euphrates River, which is 432 kilometers from Damascus. Syrian forces attacked ISIS positions on Jebel Sarda Heights near a military aerodrome. Viva Assad. Hey guys, this is really dangerous news. U.S. instates former NATO chief as advisor to Poroshenko. Not only dangerous to Novorossia, but dangerous for the world. Yesterday, Kiev announced that former NATO chief, Danish Anders Fogh Rasmussen, has been appointed advisor to President of Ukraine. Anders Rasmussen was the Danish Prime Minister from 2001 to 2009 when he was appointed Secretary General of NATO. While Rasmussen is treated like royalty in Danish media and politics, he is a controversial figure that divides public opinion. In 2003, Rasmussen redefined Danish self-understanding during World War II by saying the Danish politicians who cooperated with Nazi Germany were immoral. Then, invasion of Denmark cost 16 Danish soldiers their lives because they did not get the information that Danish government had already surrendered. Later the same year, Denmark went to war in Iraq, a decision made by the smallest possible margin in the Danish parliament. Rasmussen handed over power to his successor, Loke Rasmussen, no relation to him, when he was appointed Secretary General of NATO in 2009, but Loke Rasmussen lost the election in 2011. The opposition started investigation of the legality and basis of the Iraqi war, but this investigation was not completed by 2015 when Loke Rasmussen again came to power. It was shut down. Former Italian Prime Minister Berlusconi said that Fogh had gained support for the position by promising Turkey to close the Kurdish television station broadcasting from the Danish capital. There are speculations in Denmark that Fogh Rasmussen also promised Berlusconi to keep malfunctioned trains delivered by Italian Ansel Breda in order to gain Italian support for the position. The trains are still not in operation in Denmark, and it is common knowledge that they never will be. Upon leaving his position in NATO, Fogh Rasmussen visited Denmark and told that Danish government had to step up support for NATO. 10 days after that, the Danish government approved cooperation in NATO's missile defense and bombing raids in Iraq. After leaving NATO, Fogh Rasmussen established a consulting company, Rasmussen Global, with legal address in the tax haven Andorra, and was officially a lobbyist for Goldman Sachs and Boston Consulting Group, his work including arms sales for governments. Fogh Rasmussen believes that ISIS is a result of Syrian dictator, according to him, dictator Bashar al-Assad, and a new Iraqi regime who has misunderstood what democracy is. Fogh Rasmussen, in an event celebrating the liberation of Denmark, in reality, what unites Putin, Islamic State, and North Korea's Kim Jong-un is exactly the fight against freedom and liberal democracy. DPR and LPR, that's Donetsk and Lugansk leadership, should understand that they are dealing with a sociopath psychopath war criminal who has no regard for civilian or military casualties. The appointment of Fogh Rasmussen as advisor to Poroshenko spells bad news, and neither his cynicism or professionalism should in any way be underestimated. This news, by the way, was posted by Jesper G. Larson. Thank you, Mr. Larson. Andre, Real Madrid wins UEFA Championship League for the 11th time, beating Atletico Madrid. Spain's Real Madrid Football Club in a penalty shootout beat Atletico Madrid in the final match of the UEFA Champions League and won the tournament for the 11th time. The match was held at the San Siro Stadium in Milan, which seats 80,000 spectators. The match and extra time ended in a draw 1-1. The penalty shootout was won by Real Madrid 5-3. Sergio Ramos had given Real Madrid the lead after just 15 minutes, with the Bilbao club far the stronger side during the first half, but Diego Simone's introduction of Yannick Ferreira Carrasco at halftime changed the game. The Belgian winger scored the equalizer with 11 minutes to go, but it would have been the winner had Antonio Griezmann not slammed a penalty against the crossbar earlier. Both sides had chances in a tired period extra time, but neither could land the killer blow, taking us to penalties. Juan Fran was to be the heartbroken man, rolling his spot kick against the post and setting up Ronaldo to seal his third Champions League win. Romania and Poland are now in Russian crosshairs by hosting U.S. missile shield. Speaking today at a news conference in Athens, Russian President Vladimir Putin reiterated his criticism of the U.S. missile defense shield that is built and being expanded along the Russian frontier, saying Russia cannot help but consider it a threat and that they will take certain measures to enhance security in response. Putin singled out Romania, the site of the first U.S. base in the program, and Poland, which is hosting the building site of the second base, saying those nations had put themselves in the crosshairs by hosting parts of the U.S. program and could face retaliatory steps. In practice, Russia has long suggested that the main retaliation for the missile defense program would be to deploy more missiles in Kaliningrad, an exclave bordering Poland. Recent tensions with NATO may also have Russia considering some economic moves against the nations hosting the program. Putin noted that they've been talking about the problem of the missile defense shield for years and that no one in NATO was willing to speak to them. This is indeed the case, as the program was started in the Bush administration and Russia was saying many of the same things back then. Though back then U.S. officials insisted the program was aimed at Iran, it has always been designed right along Russian territory and much of it outside Iran's best missile range. More recently, some U.S. officials have conceded the move is meant as a show of force against Russia. Pentagon-trained moderate Syrian rebels have defected or been destroyed. All the other Pentagon-trained Syrian rebel factions, from their costly and largely ineffective foray into training, have either defected or been destroyed. The last little group, which holds the Tanaf border crossing between Iraq and Syria, is now on the brink. The rebels pushed their way in and surprised a small number of ISIS forces at the border, which is the southernmost crossing between Iraq and Syria. But now, with ISIS conducting counter-offensives in the area, it seems only a matter of time before they face another attack. The rebels complain they aren't getting much support from the U.S., which they described as a dereliction of duty, saying that they are debating whether or not to flee rather than simply wait for the inevitable rout from the much larger ISIS force. Pentagon officials sought to downplay the report, saying that they've provided air support as available and expect the group to ultimately survive and hold the Tanaf crossing. The Tanaf crossing enters its mostly empty desert in Iraq, but as a highway from Baghdad into Syria. Case closed. Crimea never to return to Ukraine. It is the people's choice. Russia will indulge in no discussion with anyone on ceding Crimea back to Ukraine, Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Friday. As for Crimea, we think this issue is closed once and for all. It was a historic decision of the people living in Crimea, he said at a news conference after his talks with the Greek leaders. Russia will indulge in no discussions with anyone on that matter, Putin stressed. So let's stop raising this matter over and over again. The Republic of Crimea and Sevastopol, a city with a special status on the Crimean Peninsula where most residents presidents are Russians, refused to recognize the legitimacy of authorities brought to power amid riots during a coup in Ukraine in February 2014. Crimea and Sevastopol adopted a declaration of independence on March 11, 2014. They held a referendum on March 16, 2014, in which 96% of Crimeans and 95% of Sevastopol voters chose to secede from Ukraine and join the Russian Federation. Russian President Vladimir Putin signed the reunification deals March 18, 2014. So Crimea will always be Russia, Mother Russia. Hey folks, that ends our program. As I stress always, everybody, please be safe out there, be on alert. And a special message, we're going to take a little break, folks. Please listen in. Novorossia Rocks radio station, we have to take a break. Some of our guys are going on vacation. So everybody, again, we'll see you all soon, about a week or so. Enjoy, be safe, and see you soon. Bye-bye, folks.